What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Every year on February 15th, Russia, Belarus and Ukraine honor the anniversary of the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan, a date that once symbolized the end of a grueling conflict. For decades, regional authorities in Russia have commemorated this occasion with musical festivals under a shared title – Afghanский ветер, Afghan wind translated. Typically, these gatherings showcase veteran singers paying tributes and a sense of camaraderie among soldiers. Nobody outside local circles would usually pay much attention. However, why would I make an entire video about such an extremely limited and regional celebration if there will be not at least a single however, right? So yeah, one such event in Stary Oskol, Belgorod region on February 7th and 8th took an unexpectedly grim turn, all thanks to an unintended remark on local television. That one phrase changed everything, unveiling the sort of disturbing reality the Kremlin likely hoped would remain hidden. And this was not a phrase randomly said by some wannabe journalist, no. This person referred to the official data and statistics that was given by the local administration, who in return received their information directly from the Ministry of Defense of Russia. So today, let's dive into this revelation and the wider implications it carries for ordinary Russians caught in the crossfire of a war they never asked for. A war that's been going on far too long, inflicting much more severe casualties than anyone could have ever predicted or anticipated. So, there was this festival in Stary Oskol, nothing out of the ordinary, if you consider how many times local communities in Russia hold these Afghan wind celebrations, especially around February 15th. Being celebrated for decades, it became somehow something of a complete routine. Only a handful of participants singing war songs and a couple dozen people in the audience, mostly relatives and friends. It is an annual ritual. Soldiers' songs, wistful guitar chords, solemn pictures of fallen heroes and things like this. And it would have remained a similar small-scale local performance, except that during a live TV broadcast, the reporter slipped in a number that shocked the viewers. And that number is 252. In 10 years of Afghan war, only 10 men from Stary Oskol died. During both Chechen campaigns, the number was 18. But just in 3 years of Putin's special military operation, 252 men, young and old from Stary Oskol alone, never returned from their endeavors in Ukraine. That is 23 times more casualties in 3 years than in 10 years in Afghanistan. And these are only officially reported people, according to the statistics by the Ministry of Defense of Russia. All of us know how much they like to lower this number. If they could, they will be more than happy to say that there are no losses at all. But this kind of blatant lie would be a total disrespect to the people of Russia. And just think about it. How many more are missing, unaccounted for, and how many more will be nullified as the conflict is nowhere near its completion? Right away, local news watchers and online communities went digging for more details. This accidental slip by a small-town reporter became a nationwide news overnight. People started asking, finally, the right questions, because the ratio of eliminations now and in the past is impossible to ignore. This is how we discovered something else. An entire social media network, mostly on VK, Russian Facebook or Meta, dedicated to finding the missing. One of the biggest, surprisingly officially verified by the Russian Censor Bureau, has more than 200,000 participants in it. That's 200,000 people looking for their dads, sons and brothers. If a person is alive, there will be some way for him to communicate, sooner or later through different people, but it will happen. But if a missing person is completely non-responsive, that relatives have to seek information on the internet, asking for any hints from the very same strangers who look for their own missing loved ones. Well, then most likely these hundreds of thousands of people are not just missing. In some cases, as soon as the missing soldiers' identities are confirmed, they pop up in an obituary days later. In others, there is a complete silence until some relative, exhausted by official bureaucratic delaying, finally seeks a legal death certificate or at least some information about their men. Then the wheels of bureaucracy start creaking finally, But by the time such information is finally acquired, the missing person can be reclassified into KIA. One name kept surfacing: Alexander Sergeyevich Stopkin. Initially, it looked like a Stary Oskol native with that name had gone missing in late 2022. Around the same time, other fronting families were posting similar pleas for help. Then, in a heartbreaking twist, an obituary turned up for a man bearing exactly the same name. Only this, Alexander Stopkin, originated from Sergeyev Posad in the Moscow region. That eerie coincidence revealed the depth of the crisis. So many people are dying or disappearing that even the names are blending into one tragic tapestry. Nobody expected Stopkin to become some kind of universal word for the missing soldier. But the story kept unfolding. Online, you can find entire lists of Stopkins from various parts of Russia who have vanished or been confirmed KIA. Turn out, this last name is not even particularly common, unlike, say, Ivanov, Popov, Kuznetsov or Fyodorov. If you go to Russian Wikipedia, or Wikipedia, how you call it, and type Ivanov, for example, there will be hundreds of articles for people who share the same last name. Stopkin, on the other hand, is just 6 of them. And still, somehow, 2 men from completely different regions sharing exactly the same first and last name were officially confirmed eliminated in Ukraine. For every Stopkin, Ivanov or Fyodorov that relatives are still desperately searching for, there is another Stopkin, Ivanov or Fyodorov whose fate is sealed in an upcoming funeral announcement. This overlap of identities is more than some grim coincidence. It underscores how casually the system treats those losses. One soldier, one name, one face, easily replaced by the next. If so many casualties exist for just a single last name to reappear in countless necrologs, imagine the real magnitude of underreported or barely acknowledged deaths. The authorities shrug off these stories, even as evidence piles up on social media, in local newspapers, or in the form of tattered photographs pinned to the community boards. What we keep forgetting is that these are actual, real people, who were born into a family. Their moms and dads changed their diapers. They witnessed their first words and steps. They scolded them for bad grades in school. And they had multiple conversations about the future, which careers they want to pursue or how they are going to need help with raising the grandchildren. All until that moment when one man decided to put his name into a history simply because he got bored of routine day-to-day politics. And then, either by force or out of desperation, caused by lack of possibilities and opportunities in remote Siberian cities, they decided to give it a chance to change their lives completely. Around 870,000 of them will never be the same anymore, assuming they even return home. Futures and dreams are shattered, both countries are struggling, the whole world is tired, and it is only one man's stubbornness that keeps the absurdity going. We might ask, why is that the government seems eerily comfortable with such staggering human loss? Well, consider the notion that nobody really wants these soldiers back. Not if they're wounded, not if they're physically or mentally scarred. Footage has emerged of men struggling on crutches, forced back to the front lines, mere days after major surgeries. Others film themselves inside transport vehicles, pleading to anyone who will listen that they are not fit for combat. And yet, their commanders still receive the orders from above to put exactly such people to the very front lines. It almost feels like that the Putin's administration, which already crossed so many inhumane red lines, still goes even further in their quest to grind as many of their countrymen as possible. Which, from their side, makes unorthodox, unethical sense. Why pay 20-year-old the disability pension for 60 years, when you can just order him to take an abandoned barn at the south of Bakhmut? The mentality of Russian government is no person, no problem. Somehow, still, so many Russians do not see it. Meanwhile, official propaganda keeps spinning tales of heroic samurai-like endurance, calling these men special warriors, whose sacrifice lies beyond the understanding of ordinary people. But if you look closer, it appears more sinister. The state has effectively purchased them with a one-time signing bonuses, and now considers them expendable. They already got the rubles, so from the government's perspective that's it. The deal is done, done dealio. It was your choice to sell your life for 3 million rubles. We paid you the money, our side of the deal is completed. Now you have to do whatever we tell you, and don't you dare complaining. Sometimes it is just easier when they vanish altogether. No messy paperwork, no awkward hospital visits, no continuous drain on the budget. This dynamic echoes older patterns in Russia's system, where any financial windfall from the state is twisted into an unspoken agreement of servitude. You took the money, then you owe us your life, your health, and your future. And if you cannot deliver, no big deal, the morgue or the missing persons list is waiting for you. See if we care, we have 146 million more if we need to. What's this 1% to our entire system? The festival fiasco in Stary Oskol we spoke about in the beginning of this video, with its sudden glimpse into local casualty rates, only scratches the surface, believe it or not. Step outside Belgorod region and you find other places where entire neighborhoods have lost multiple young men. And it's not just the missing or the dead. Some are alive but forced to sign endless contracts voluntarily under gunpoint. Most of these are either conscripts or the people naive enough who went to the draft offices just to verify and update their personal data, just like the Ministry of Defense of Russia asked them for. Who would believe them, right? Still some people do. Others can't even walk, yet they are told to line up for another assault. War reporters who have covered previous conflicts seem stunned by the sheer ridiculousness of it all. Even Chechnya, with its own dark legacy, rarely forced men half dead to fight again. It's like the current war has no bottom, no final bottom line the government won't cross. You might wonder why so many in Russia tolerate this. That's a very good question. Personally, we are still looking for an answer. Maybe they have grown numb, bombarded by state TV that glorifies every act of violence as a moral crusade. Or maybe they are scared. But most likely, it is the combination of both. As long as the war not directly affects them, they are neutral. But if the hand of regime starts knocking on their door, this is when they become fearful. There is a creeping sense that large chunks of the population are excess. And in the eyes of the regime, at least, that's how some local voices are framing it. Once you are on the missing list, you fade into oblivion. If you die, you're a number that gets mentioned on a local newscast once, and then never again. If you are permanently wounded, you become a burden for the system, which will look for any opportunity to get rid of you. As you can see, nothing fancy about being Russian during Putin's rule. Well, there you have it, guys. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support my work, the links down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow. We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe